downtime.com, one of the internet's leading sources of entertainment news. Josh Brolin is an Academy Award nominated actor, director, producer, and writer.
Yes!
He's known for his work in films such as The Goonies, No Country for Old Men, Inherent Vice, the Adventure series, and most recently as Gurney Halleck in Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2. Later this year, Josh will publish his memoir, From Under the Truck, but today he visits Barnes & Noble to discuss his acclaimed book, Dune Exposures, published by Inside Editions. The book explores the creation of Denis Villeneuve's film adaptations of Dune through the evocative fusion of Josh's sublime writing and cinematographer Greg Fraser's intimate set photography. We're pleased to welcome Stephen Weintraub and Josh Brolin.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Hi guys.
Hey Josh.
Let me have it.
We're good. Let me see who I know here. Right here. Oh, no way! Wendy Kirk. She's my lawyer. She's here for a reason.
Have you ever done a Q&A in a bookstore?
Never. This is the first.
Yeah.
And I hang out a lot here. And nobody really cares. It's so funny. I came in through the back and I did this whole kind of labyrinth in order to get here, which was really for no fucking reason at all. I spend most of my time with them.
Let's start with the most important question, and I don't have it written down. When are we gonna get a Goonies sequel? Is it worth doing one, or is because I think the first Goonies is a masterpiece, and is it sort of like not? Is it? You know what I mean? Like making a sequel to that is playing with fire almost.
I mean, don't you think, as a film critic, don't you understand probably more than anyone that when there's a certain time when a movie is made that you just let the movie be itself instead of trying to profit off some idea of a future.
Or it could be called, or we could make Goonies 2, Goonies Never Die.
So go ahead.
All right, let's get off that.
No, but you know what? I will say one thing. There was one, that question has been asked so many times that I finally, just out of frustration and boredom, I said to a guy, wasn't you, and I said, oh, we're doing it. And he goes, no way. And he was so happy he had the exclusive. And then I started talking about Meryl Streep, and she's going to play the mom, and the alcoholic, and Vega, and he was so happy. It wasn't true, none of it was true.
Is your mic actually working? Are you hearing
I don't
it?
know. I can talk loudly.
No, I just want to make sure.
Can you?
Yeah, it's working.
Can you turn it on? Is
Or
it
maybe
my fault?
maybe take mine because it's a little louder.
Let me hear yours now.
Yeah, this is better because I think that's a.
Is there a way to turn that one up, or?
No, we're good.
Yeah, we're good?
We're good. Yeah,
Okay.
you use that one.
Okay.
All right, so you've done so many great roles.
Thank you guys for coming, by the way.
Thank you,
Honestly.
Josh. I love you. Thanks a lot.
Charles Murray back there. Out of range.
Yeah, by the way, if you haven't seen Outer Range on Prime Video, right there,
That's
new showrunner.
New showrunner. Right there.
Season 2 is, pardon my
There.
language, right
The
there.
guy who you can't not see back there.
Right. Season 2 of Outer Range. I think I'm still under embargo, but fuck it. It is awesome. it is so good. Season 2 is infinitely better than the first season.
Right on.
Charles
Yeah.
did a great job.
Right on.
It's so good. Especially if you enjoyed the whole sci-fi stuff. Anyway, let's jump into
Let's talk about this.
Actually, I have a question or two first.
Yeah.
So, if you've done so many great roles, if someone's never seen anything you've done, what is the first thing they should watch and why?
I did a favor for a guy when I was in a position where I was of no perceived value, and it was Alan Mindell, and he asked me if I'd come to Milwaukee and put on a thong and anyway, that one.
What is the most nervous you've been the night before the first day of filming something?
Oh, Sicario 2. And for some reason I woke up and I probably shouldn't say it. I had a fake beard on. I can't grow a full beard. I can grow this, but I can't grow that. So anyway, there was that I had in my head about I wanted it to look right. It was a 7-page scene, and for some reason, and I still don't know to this day, I slept 45 minutes the night before, a 7-page scene that was mostly me talking, that they rightly cut down to like a 3-page scene because it was just going on and on. But I don't know why either. I was the most nervous, and probably before Goonies, because I had no idea. So I ruined the first half day of Goonies because I got into a laughing fit purely out of nerves. And Spielberg says, please don't ruin my movie. That's the truth, actually.
Denis is a genius, and I'm just curious, at what point did you realize, oh my God, this guy is another level?
You know, and this is not, it's not meant to be like, you know, arrogant or whatever. It was just, when he offered me Sicario, I turned it down twice. And it was a really small role, and he kept saying what normally, like directors always say, 100% of the time, I know it doesn't seem much right now, but we're gonna make it into something else. And it's just total horseshit. And Denis had this way about him, and Roger Deakins was doing the movie. I'd already worked with Roger a couple of times. I knew Emily. I had worked with Benicio, I think 3 times at that point. And the reason why I did it, I don't know why I was scared. You get scared about doing roles, and you don't know until you're on it. You're like, thank God I said okay. And there's a few movies that I've pulled out of that I kind of wish I hadn't, like 2 movies. But it was Roger Deakins who called me, and he said, quit being an asshole. You're on the storyboards. Your face is on the storyboards. Just get down here and do this. Which is why I said yes, because I got scared. But that role turned into a whole thing. Like Jeffrey Donovan, who I had this back and forth with, he had, I think, 5 lines in the whole movie. That's the way it started. And then it turned into, like, he had a huge part. He ended up doing the second one, and he'll probably do the third one when it's eventually done.
Jumping into your book.
Is that a long answer?
No, it's perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Jumping into why everyone's here and the book.
Yes.
A little generic, but how did this thing actually happen?
You know, it was because, God, it was like the one time that Instagram actually was positive. I was writing these little things. I've written my whole life. You know, I have probably I think it's 88, but between 80 and 90 journals starting from when I was like 8 or 9. And, you know, some of them are just awful and some of them are decent, and there's different people I was reading at the time, different things I was going through. I was in the desert, I was in the mountains, I was doing that movie, I was not working at all, and I started trading stocks. So you get to see this kind of labyrinth of this guy's life, who is mine. And I've always wanted to put stuff together. I've written 3 books of prose. I'd never tried to do anything with it because I was always against this idea of an actor. You know, I just thought it was too pretentious. It's like the actor's going to put out some writing, and oh, he's a writer now too. And I just didn't want to do it. So, but I loved writing, and writing was always the greatest form of expression for me, personally, more than acting. Acting was more of a chore. Writing was a chore, but it was a more satisfying mode of expression. So Tanya LaPointe, who's with Denis, came up to me, and we were toward the end of Dune 1, and she said, you know, I've read a lot of your stuff on Instagram. And Greg, they had told Greg, and he had taken kind of shots here and there, even though he had this incredible responsibility of being a DP on that movie. He would just turn around. It was always one shot. It was never like a setup or anything. He'd just turn around and go, look at me, and that was it. And those shots are incredible, and all those shots were taken like that. And she said, why don't you guys put like a book together, and maybe we can get somebody to buy it or something. And that's literally where it came from. It was purely instigated by her.
What do you think will surprise fans of the book to learn about the making of the book?
About the making of the book? The fact that it was made.
No, but like I don't know how it all gets put together. But what was it like collaborating with Greg? What is it like putting together a book?
Strangely, and I say this objectively, and I'm pretty good even when I do movies. Like I was talking to a director today, and we were talking about a certain part that I don't think I'm right for, and he does. So I was trying to talk myself out of the part. I was like, you should get this other guy. He would be amazing. But you look at it like architecture, and that's what this thing became. And collaborating with Greg we're good friends, and we were good friends at that point. We got really close. But collaborating, he started as a photographer, and I would like to think that I started as a writer. So it was going back to these two loves that we don't necessarily aren't our profession, our primary profession. So there was this great kind of regression that went on, but we took it very seriously. And we'd lay everything out. We'd do writing, and I didn't do all the writing on Dune. Sometimes I'd look at it or I'd see a piece of writing and we'd try to match it and I'd say it's wrong. It just doesn't work. So I'd go into, which my wife made for me, my little writer's hut, my little 60 square foot writer's hut on our property that I love. And we'd go down there and just start, typing away or writing away longhand. And I think that we attempted this on the first movie. I think that was a good attempt. And then this book is a compilation of both movies together. And I think we came up with something good. I like it because sometimes it takes itself seriously. Sometimes it's the opposite. Some of the, like, why a haiku? Like am I 4? But it dictated what it wanted. And I like it. And sometimes, like this whole thing with Timothy Chalamet, I think is hilarious. And that's why I exploited it on SNL. Because if it's going to get you to buy the book, fine. But I wrote that super early, and it doesn't even cross my mind. I get excited about new talent, and Timothy was coming out of, independent films, and he got there, and he was like a little puppy dog. He was like, "What is this? I don't understand. It's so big." I'd be like, "It's okay, man." So me and Jason became like his mentors, like his father figures. So I'm looking at this kid who's so young, and I'm like, you have your whole life ahead of you. This is going to be crazy to watch, and it has been crazy to watch. So that was like a first reaction to this infant. It's like, oh my God, it's a little baby. So I'd write the same thing again, is what I'm saying.
I may have asked Greg Fraser to supply some questions for tonight, and so.
Cool.
Oh yeah, I did that. So his first question is a question that relates to an actor's life on a film shoot. Because as the DP, I'm involved in practically every minute of the production process. I've always wondered how actors channel their energy when they are not on set. Direct quote.
Super pedantic. I don't like thinking of him asking that question.
You want to move on?
No. I think it's funny because you have some actors, which I tried to be early on, that try and stay in character. And I think sometimes it still happens, and it has to do with fear, and it has to do with the comfort level and all that. I have found through the years that the looser I am, the more emotionally available I am. So with Greg, it was great because there was a great banter back and forth, and he's focused, and yet he has that same kind of banter. I think he likes to keep things loose because it keeps the ideas going. It keeps, So I don't know really. It depends on the movie. It depends on the director. It depends on the crew. I mean, there's times where you're doing a scene and you're on take, 25, and you look over and you see the guy holding the light, literally yawn the biggest yawn you've ever seen. And it's not because of the scene, but you're not quite sure, and you go, okay, I gotta get going. There's pressures,
Sure.
And then you get to a point when you're 56 where you don't care anymore, so. Not that you don't care about the work, you don't care about the immediate reaction of the crew.
Next question from Greg. Did Josh begin writing as a response to the downtime between his sessions on a set during a shoot?
No, because I write all the time anyway. I write all the time, and it was a great excuse. Even this time, I imagined doing something like this in my writer's hut, and there's a romance that I attach to it, and a whole mythology. When the truth of the matter is I wrote the majority of, not the majority of it, maybe half of it in Jordan and in the sands of Abu Dhabi, and not like in a lotus pose, like hot and super irritated. All over the place, wherever I could, so the romance is kind of taken out of it, which I love now because it's about the work and it's about being inspired to just, an idea hits and you want to write it down, and maybe I'll go to Greg and I'll go, what do you think of that? I think the greatest thing about Greg is he's very organically appreciative of my writing that I know is not full of it. And I think his photography is unbelievable. So true fans of each other's work.
Yeah, Greg Fraser is a brilliant cinematographer.
Brilliant.
Just unbelievable.
Truly.
His last question. One of the most compelling pieces of writing in Exposures is when Josh writes in the voice of his daughter. It is written with such an honesty and knowledge. Does Josh feel like he could or would want to write in the voice of a stranger or somebody he doesn't know as intimately as his family?
He already pitched that to me. He did. He said, why don't you write a movie? He was really taken by that, and I was really moved that he was taken by that because, you know, my wife and I, we have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, so obviously the majority of our life, I like my little clan club, the majority of our lives revolve around that. You know, we see everything through them. I mean, we just, like literally, I woke up this morning at 4 o'clock this morning and a leg went, and just like I've bruised ribs right now because we're all in bed together every single night. So it's nice to be able to create a story through somebody else's. Very moving to me, you know, to imagine what it's like for her to have her daddy get up before the sun comes up, put on a really strange looking spacesuit, and then walk into endless sand. That's really weird. You know what I mean? And how does she perceive that? Because our kids don't really understand what I do, which I appreciate right now. You know, I don't really look forward to the day where like, oh, like, are you doing Kimmel tonight? You know what I mean? I don't want that moment to happen.
You've worked with two, I love Roger Deakins and I love Greg Fraser. How are they similar and how are they different?
Well, I think Roger is, admittedly to Greg, a mentor of Greg's. You know, I think, you know, that Roger has a brilliant podcast. I don't know if anybody's heard it, but it's a genius podcast. And that he and his wife James does. And Greg, we've been on that podcast. We've turned the tables on them in that podcast. I think I've done it 2 or 3 times, and I think Greg has done it probably 5 times or 6 times. And Roger, I think, you know, Roger's been doing it for so long, and he's, you know, Greg is still peaking. You know, it's kind of like Denis. It's like you see Sicario and you go, wow, what's he going to do next? I don't know. And then he does this, and you go, I didn't see that coming. And then he does something, and then he does Dune. You go, I didn't see that coming. And then how can you do better than, you know, all that stuff. So Roger, I think, is the same way, but he's been around for so long. Like the Roger that I know in Sicario is the same Roger that I knew in No Country. And the same Roger that I knew in 4 other movies that I've done with him. There's something very old school private about him, whereas Greg feels more cutting edge to me. And yet Roger is probably the most cutting edge guy. You know, he was the guy that went into digital. Whereas you think Roger would be one of those guys like only film ever. And he did a test, I remember, on digital with low light, with candlelight, and with overhead sun. And he said, we just made the leap. There is no difference between the two.
That's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that digital cinematography allows you to shoot with basically no light, especially with some of the newer cameras.
Exactly. You know, talking like if you go into photographing, which I've always done too, and been obsessed with when I was younger, you know, pushing, you know, 3200 speed film into whatever, you know, pushing it twice, or you know, now you get into 50,000 ASA, and you know, it's just crazy. It's a whole world that I was like, I'll just write a paragraph of prose instead.
I am curious, how did you decide what writing you had was going to end up in the book? Did you end up writing a lot of stuff that didn't end up in the book?
What happened, the design at least, and you know, you experiment, and then it comes, and then it's almost like finding a role. Like you're looking for the voice, and then you get it. You know, you start chewing gum in Sicario. I didn't have a hook in Sicario, so I started chewing gum. I don't know where it came from, and then something clicked. And it was the same thing. We were experimenting, reading over writings that I had done, and then I went, oh, I know what this is. And then we went with it. But I would stop myself, and I think we kind of collaboratively said, we have enough serious shit. I think we need to go into another realm. And then we started playing with, you know what I mean? So that's why you have a lot of different directions in the book. You have your poetry, or you have your prose, or you have your just kind of behind the scenes ridiculousness that nobody should ever know about, and now they do.
What, if anything, did you borrow from the Dune set?
How do you mean?
You know, like hypothetically, I know you wouldn't have stolen anything, but hypothetically, what did you borrow with every intention of bringing it back?
So what did I steal?
Because I would have taken everything, literally.
I know you would have.
Yeah.
What was there to steal? I was just given the ballast set when I did Colbert, which was a really nice gift. I'm really bad about that, man. I should have taken the freaking glove. I didn't even think about that. That was stupid.
Everything on that set.
Everything on that set.
Everything.
But I didn't know you're there working, and you know you're in front of a bunch of people and computers, and I don't think like that. I'm like, am I doing good? Do you like me?
You know, like, there's a ring you could have borrowed.
There is a ring I could. There's a lot of stuff. I could have taken Downey home.
What actually, have you taken anything from sets? Is there one item that you've had from your movies that you...
Doubloons. From Goonies. From the ship.
So you still have those?
Maybe. Not saying anything else.
When you think about the shoot, when you think about both Dune shoots, what's like the day that you'll always remember? One of those things that just sticks with you?
Any shoot?
Just from the two Dune shoots.
Oh my God, man. I mean, honestly, okay, so I guess there's two things that come to mind. One is, in Dune 2, there's a shot where there's the harvester in the background and Gurney's walking really softly and slowly. And then he looks over and he sees the mothership come in and crash after that whole thing. And Gurney says, I don't know what he says. He says like fuck or something like that, right? And Denis kept saying, say tabernacle. I was like, why? He said, say tabernacle. And I was like, but nobody's going to know what I'm talking about. Like, isn't he going to take that out of the movie? And he said, no, it's great. And, you know, in Canada, like, that's a huge thing. I go, yeah, but we're not in Canada, man. Like, nobody's going to understand what that is. And I tried it. They have it on film. And it sounds super bad. And then he finally came up to me at the end and he goes, just say fuck, folks. Just fuck. And that's what ended up there. And the other thing is always what I appreciate, especially when people are taking their job seriously. And we did. We all took it seriously. I think we're all very happy to be there. I think we're all in love with Denis. Is, you know, you have your room. You're in Abu Dhabi. You're 2.5 hours south of Abu Dhabi. You're truly in the middle of nowhere for weeks. And you look over and you see, like, Timothy just hanging out. And you see Z over there hanging out. What's up, Zendaya? And you see like Stellan Skarsgård. Looks like he's gonna die in a second. That guy looks so constipated right now. Just the whole thing across the board. It becomes very human. And I love that aspect of what we do. And you can't really explain it to anybody. They don't understand. You think as a successful actor, you're basically watching, you know, walking a perpetual red carpet and waving to anybody who will watch. But it's just not true. It's a great kind of working class environment when it comes down to it.
We've talked about this, but I'll bet you there's a lot of people in the audience who don't know, so I'm going to ask you. Denis has famously said he will not release any deleted scenes from Dune or Dune 2. It makes me very sad.
Yeah.
And so what deleted scenes were part of your character? Do you remember any other deleted scenes? What can you share?
I have weeks of deleted scenes. And they're all so good. I'll talk to Denis. No, there wasn't much that was deleted. I mean, there was
For you, I mean, maybe not much, but there's a whole bunch of stuff.
Are you sure?
100%.
Did you read the book?
No, we didn't.
No, I'm kidding. The first, I mean, at least personally, the first one we did a song.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I sang in front of like 30 guys. I actually like the song. I didn't write it, but I like the song. We did it in front of Momoa. He called me the night before and he said, "Can you learn this for tomorrow morning?" Which he tends to do. Like, I had a dream. I'm like, oh, fuck your dreams. But I learned it, I did it, and then he felt super bad. He called me and he was like, "I have to cut this scene. It's just tonally, it's not right." And I was like, "If it's bad, just tell me. I don't care. That's all good." But he said, "No, it's actually really good." And I saw it, and he said, "But it's totally wrong." And then he had me write the song with Hans Zimmer for the second one. I think maybe as an apology. I'm not positive, but that was a nice thing to be able to do. And Hans gave me credit for the song, and partial credit, not all the credit. Yeah, it was cool. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's scenes that again, man, you're doing this for like 4 months. You get a little, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and things get weird.
Sure. I personally, from what I've heard, there's some really cool stuff, but Denise has said to me, he said the film is the film, and it's like Kubrick. Film is a film, you're not going to see the deleted scenes.
Which I agree with. I want a Goonies 2, just don't make the Goonies 2. You know what I mean?
Let's move on to some audience questions. Will you be in Dune Messiah, and can we hang out? This is from Robert and Sean.
First part of the question, yes. Second part, totally. Right on. Yeah, I think. I mean, I'm pretty sure. That's what I've heard. That's what he dreamt about.
Is it what you've heard also about the Goonies 2 with Meryl Streep?
Yeah. Well, I cast myself. I was in charge of that casting.
Hi. Who would win in an arm wrestling match between the Dune cast?
I know, which Dune? Is Momoa there?
Sure.
Did you ask this?
No.
Well, who asked it? Raise your hand.
Right back there.
A tiny arm goes up. Let's see. Momoa, if Momoa were there, him. If he weren't there, we would all let Denis win. How's that?
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no? The world wants to know.
Absolutely. For sure.
Really? We're no longer friends.
Really? Good. I mean, I have a whole I've been going to Kauai for 40 plus years, and and they accept me there, so I gotta let our friendship go. Sorry.
Who wins in a fight, Gurney or Cable? This is from Raul.
Why? What does the sandworm mean to you? And have you named it in your mind? Let's see. Cable would win. Wouldn't Cable win? I mean, Cable's like a thing. He can do a thing, and he's got that. Cable, I don't know.
Were the suits comfortable? Were they hard to put on? And this is from Megan.
They were, and ironically, I just went out with a director today, and I saw Jacqueline, who did the wardrobe for the movie, and brilliantly so. So, yes, they were hard to put on. What did our kids call them? What did Chapel call them? Call them my spacesuit? I think it was a spacesuit, the dirty spacesuit. Yeah. Yeah, they were hot. That was the thing. They're rubber, and you have 3 layers of it. It was the other thing that we fought in. So in Dune 2, when we did the sword fight,
The oneer?
The oneer, which was a oneer. I mean, even though there were 3 cameras and they cut between the 3, I'm very proud of that moment because as a 55-year-old dude, that was not an easy feat. But we had this thing on, and it was hard. So every time you lift, it's like a turtle thing. So every time you lift, the thing goes like that. And it's scratching up your face and the whole thing. That was not, I don't like the wardrobe. Fuck Jackie, man.
I now know why you didn't take that home.
Well, wardrobe was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
It's phenomenal. When was the first time you met Denis?
He came over to Venice. I got a place in Venice in California. I can't afford Venice, Italy. Yeah. But he came over, and it was the first time I met him. And I had not seen, I don't think, Prisoners, which I thought was great, but I had seen Asandi, which I thought was genius. But that's all I knew about him. I mean, he was like, it's like the meeting I had today. It was just a new director. I mean, even though he had done quite 4 films at that point, 5, he was like this guy who couldn't speak English, you know? I don't want to, what do you call it, to do it. I don't think so.
What a lot of people won't remember is he did, I believe, Enemies and Prisoners
Oh, right.
were both at, I want to say they were both at Toronto the same year.
Were they really?
Or it was a year apart, but I mean, he, you know, Enemies is, when you watch that, you can't imagine this is the guy who's going to direct Dune and Dune 2.
That's what's so amazing about him, and really is amazing about him, is that it's what's exciting about an actor. You know, you have your people that find their niche, and it's whether it's a talent-based thing or whether it's a success-based thing. People get, you know, they attach themselves to this, oh my God, that worked, so I got to do that again. I have to do that. I have a lot of respect for somebody who says, you know what, I'm going to do that. I know it may not work, but I have this feeling. I have this feeling, and I don't know anybody who does that. Like Deakins does that, Denis does that. Old school kind of mentality, which I love.
100%.
Yeah.
What is your favorite line in Dune 1 and Dune 2?
That's a wrap. And lunch.
What inspired you to write poetry for Dune? Was it the source material, the shooting experience, getting into character, or a combination of all of those?
I was a combination of all of those. I was inspired. I was truly inspired. It didn't come out of angst. It came out of an absolute love fest with the experience that I was having on both of them. Yeah, I mean, when I think about it, it was, I love working with those people. There's nobody. I mean, there's always somebody where you go, yeah, he's kind of a dick. But there was nobody. I had amazing experiences with everybody because I felt that there was a massive lack of pretense on that set. And I like being around that.
Yeah, that's not always the norm.
No.
Yep.
No.
What was the hardest scene for you to film in Dune or Dune 2 from Luanda?
The hardest scene, God, you know, there was a scene that we did in a cave. I think it's one of the first times that you see Gurney. I'm just remembering Dune 2, and we did a scene in a cave, and I got super nervous before it for absolutely no reason.
It's crazy that you would still get nervous after everything you've done in your career.
Walken has said that too. Walken has said, you know, about getting nervous before you do, and you don't know, because your brain is telling you, you've been doing it 40 years, you're all good. Like, you know how to put this pipe on this other pipe and glue it, you know, and yeah, I got really nervous, to the point where I started to panic. And I don't do that. I mean, I don't know where that came from. I think it's wanting to do a good job, and then, yeah, I don't know.
Can I ask, was it early in the shoot?
It was, where were we? Not necessarily, actually. We were in Jordan.
Budapest.
No, we weren't. What? We were in Budapest when that happened? No. We were out in Jordan. No, with Timothy in the cave. Yeah, we were in Jordan. So I'd been doing it for a while. I don't know, man. Schizophrenia.
No, but I've heard a lot of people talk about like the first few days. What's interesting is I've heard a great story from Donald Sutherland. He told me that he's reached the point now where it's in his contract that he wants to film something in the first few days that's always in the middle of the film. Because by then, people will buy into whatever he's selling. And he's like, he can figure out as he's
he
going.
has the confidence, he finds the confidence to be able to do that. You don't, in Sicario 2, give the guy on the first day of shooting the movie and the first time the character shoots a scene, give him 7 pages of dialogue. That's probably what you don't do. Usually they slowly kind of, you know. But yeah, it's fairly random. It's fairly random, and it always comes as a surprise, and it makes you feel like I think it's part of what makes it attractive is because that's possible. So you're reignited about, like, I can't be lazy about any of this stuff. So I know that when I do a movie, like I'm getting ready to do a movie in Atlanta, and I start reading acting books and stuff like that, for real. I start going like, I've forgotten everything, and this is going to be the one where they find out. And I know a lot of people have said that, but that's
He's getting ready to film Weapons,
Weapons.
which is the follow-up film from Zach Krieger for who did Barbarian.
yeah, no, I'm excited about it too. That was one of those things where I was like, I don't know. And then when I said yes, it kind of grew. It blossomed after I said yes. I'm really happy.
There's some good people in it.
Really good people.
Yep.
Yeah.
To Josh, is there any chance of Sicario 3 happening? And P.S. You and Benicio were great. This is from Walt.
Thanks, Walt. I'll let Benicio know. We keep talking about it. I said something at one point, because I have a big mouth, obviously. And I said, yeah, I don't think Sicario 3 is going to happen. And all the producers like ambushed. And I saw it in the news and all that kind of stuff. And then we talked. So I know that they've tried to make it happen. They've brought a couple of people on. And I think it's really everybody, me and Benicio and Emily, just saying like, do we like this? Like, is this the way?
I mean, I know that Chris McQuarrie worked on it for a little bit. Like, there's been a whole bunch of people that have worked on it.
Not a whole bunch, but yeah.
Well, at least McQuarrie.
Yeah, McQuarrie and I think Sheridan also in the beginning.
So it's just a question of, I guess, the script or you got, I don't know. Anyway, let's open it up. Do you have any, you want to have the audience ask questions? Or
I'd like to read the whole book for you now. No, I think, first of all, thanks, Stevie, for doing that. That was really sweet, man. Thank you, brother. But I'm curious, has anybody, like, you know, we talked a lot about movies in the book. It's very meaningful to us, to Greg, both Greg and I. And we treated it putting it together with Inside Editions and Legendary and all that. And it really meant a lot to us. And the fact that, I mean, look, man, when you look online, when you are even quietly an aspiring writer, aspiring photographer, aspiring actor, whatever it is, and when you look and you see bestseller, there's nothing like that. Like, I'll forever take that to my grave. I don't know if somebody like wrote it on there, but it doesn't matter to me. I saw it, and it was a really, really special moment for Greg and I that we called each other and we said, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah, can you believe that?" Yeah, bookstores have meant a lot to me, and writing means a lot to me. So if anybody has any questions, hey.
This is my first time seeing you in person. I didn't realize how funny
You too.
I didn't realize how funny you are. Would you consider doing a straight comedy? No, actually, just like comedy.
Who's directing it?
Fairly Brothers.
Yeah, the Fairley Brothers. Yeah. I mean, we've played with different things. I've done different types of comedies. You know, I mean, yes, only because there's nothing that I'm not interested in playing with. Storytelling is storytelling, but you know, you do SNL and you know you're not a sketch comedian, but you do it anyway, just to see what happens. You know, but yeah, thanks for saying that. I appreciate it. Okay.
I have a question for the audience. How many people actually have questions that they want to ask Josh right now? Is there? I'm just looking at the hands. Yeah, I was looking at. We have just a few minutes to do this.
Okay.
So let's go right here.
My question is, what character, if any, was the hardest for you to immerse yourself into?
Which character was the hardest for you to immerse yourself into, of the ones you've played?
I like that. Caveat, the ones I played.
I knew there was a joke. I
know, I was thinking of it. Well, The Godfather was really tough. First, because I wasn't there, but I was. The hardest, you know, I did a movie called Flirting with Disaster, David O. Russell's first movie that I was Miramax at the time, which was huge. They were it. And they did everything they can to get me to not do that movie. Because I was the guy that should have hit earlier and didn't. And David O. Russell fought for me for that movie. And I was so happy to be there. And I was very nervous. I mean, Mary Tyler Moore and George Segal and, you know, Patricia and Ben and Taya Leone and all these amazing people. And then Josh Brolin, whatever his name is. And I was riding Harleys, and I was like, they were like, who is this guy? And I had so much fun. That was nervous, but that was a role I loved, you know. And we created it as we went on. Like I have tattoos now, but I had a lot of tattoos at that point. I had a lot of tattoos that I had lasered off when I was younger, and I had some of them then, and so I was a tattoo-infested bisexual ATF agent with an armpit fetish, is what it turned out to be, and I was very pleased with it.
Question right here.
The song that was edited out. Can you sing something for us?
No, dude. You have to attend security.
Right there. You sure?
Oh, hi Josh, nice to meet you. Sorry, I'm nervous. What was your favorite part about playing Gurney Halleck?
Favorite part about playing Gurney?
Favorite part about playing Gurney? I mean, I really, you know, he's. I did Outer Range and I did the first Dune back to back, and it was the first time in my life. That was my whole professional year. That year with those two things, and I was called old man in one and grandpa in the other. So that was a major milestone for me. The other thing is I liked, it wasn't in the book necessarily, but I liked what Denis and I came up with between the end of Dune 1, where you didn't know if Gurney really had lived or not, which I liked, the elusiveness of that, and then us losing weight and growing out my hair, and him being more acerbic and more kind of growly and gritty and pissed off. You know, he basically turned into a smuggler now, and you know, he is this other person. He's still the same guy, he's just more severe, and because of that, more vulnerable. Like there was a great moment, and I'll show it, but there's a great moment that was purely Denis, where he sees where Gurney sees Paul for the first time after he knocks him down and does all that stuff. And we had done it a couple of times, you know, Paul, whatever I did. Paul. And then, but it was more like there was vulnerability in it, but then Denis came up and he whispered, "You've missed him so much." And that's the take that they used, which I love. You know.
Thank you.
Did you have a question? Yeah.
What's up, dude? Good.
So I tried to give away with a book like this to grads from 25 years ago, and not even close. So I'm just wondering what Greg shot all these images with, because they're so beautiful. What was there to be
Yeah, I mean, what you asked was the shots, because they're beautiful images, and they really are beautiful images, and they're not tweaked, and they're not, you know, they're tweaked like they would be in the old school days, you know, where there's a little level correction or something like that, but that's about it. There's a Canon, I think, at the end of the book that you can see him taking a picture of me, and then it's reversed because of the guy on set that was taking pictures, Nico, and there's kind of a great moment there. Where I think that's a Canon. Is that a Canon or a Minolta or something?
Olympus.
It's an Olympus. Thank you, bro. Here, come up here. But he used all kinds of stuff. You know, he's like a friend of mine, Brian Bowen Smith, where they're constantly experimenting, like, can you take this lens and somehow fit it on this camera? And what if you did this? Or what if you use a lens baby? Or what if you, so he found cameras in Hungary, you know, at flea markets. He used medium format cameras, he used 35 millimeter, like everything. And by the way, that wasn't his job. Do you know what I mean? It's like they didn't tell me to write a book, because I'd have been like, oh, like I'm playing Gurney, you know that. Right? and he had 20 times the job that I had. I mean, he was the DP he won a freaking Academy Award for the movie. And he took all these pictures.
I heard he works very fast, which is crazy.
He he works very fast and he works very efficiently. And it's very rare that you'll see him kind of irritable, but he's very focused. He's not particularly formal. I mean, he's from Australia. It's impossible for him to be totally formal. But he's that guy, you know? Like once in a while, there's an actor who shows up. Once in a while, there's a director who shows up. Once in a while, there's a DP who shows up, you know? And he's that guy right now.
I think we have time for one more question before
would you or do you plan on doing another book of this kind? Like maybe not necessarily for Dune, but just like any.
Are you planning on doing another book of this kind? Maybe not Dune, but something.
Well, the next book, I'm taking the pictures and Greg's writing. Just to play. No, I'm sure if we do Dune 3, which because of you guys, it looks like we will. Which is awesome. I think it's great. Who knows? We'll probably, just because we have momentum and we have interest now, it makes it fun. It just makes it fun. I think it's a fun book. I think it's like I said, we took it seriously, but it's inspiring for us. It comes out of our inspiration and our love of what we're doing. And then I have a book coming out November 19th called From Under the Truck.
Can I ask you a question about that? You mentioned earlier how you've been keeping journals for basically your entire life. So when writing this memoir, were you going through these journals for like the first time? And how much did those journals help you in writing this book?
It's funny because that was initially the thing. That's what you would think. It has to be like a memoir. Are you writing short stories, or what are you doing? You're writing poetry or whatever. Now that this is out, everyone's, oh, you're like a poet. I'm not. But I took journals and I compiled pieces that I had found in the journals. And I looked back at those pieces and I sent them out. I didn't necessarily use, for no particular reason other than I didn't want to. I didn't use my CAA. I didn't use my agency. I wanted my own agent, and I wanted to see if an agent would take me. And Inkwell Management, Kimberly Witherspoon took me, and she's an incredible agent. She was Anthony Bourdain's agent, and I loved his writing. And so I put it together. I go back and I read. My point is, I read what I sent her and them. It's so bad, bro. I mean, it's so poorly written because I think I was in this frenzy. I had this moment like I want to do it, and I think all the decades of fear of having written and then just saying, just do it. And I know that's been happening a lot this year. So there's been this book, there's been this book, there's been that book, there's been directing, I wrote a play, we're doing a reading of the play in 2 weeks. So I think I just hit this place where I'm just like, you know what, why not? Like, this is what's been boiling in me for a long time. Let's express yourself in different formats, in different ways.
Real quick, just to let the audience know, Josh directed episode 6 of Outer Range season 2, and he did crash the Ferrari. Number 2, he hasn't announced this yet, but he's going to be performing stand-up at Largo's really soon. This was a warm-up tonight, and you can see that he does a great job. But ladies and gentlemen, Josh Brolin.